We have a full moon in Aries coming up on October 6th at 8:47 p.m. Pacific time. And this is a supermoon, meaning that the moon is in one of its closer proximities to the Earth. And so having a bigger effect on the tides, on our emotions, and so forth. So, and sort of really empowering all of the energies that are associated with this full moon. And so a full moon in Aries is, the sign of Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, of course, and it is a fire sign. And it really has the energy of new beginnings, of course, because it is the beginning of the zodiac, but also it's a personal sign. It's about the individual. It's about our individual identity, our inner authority, our sovereignty. And it is a very clear energy in terms of it knows who it is, right? And if you have your sun in Aries, for example, you generally would have a very clear sense of self. And this is a really powerful full moon in terms of its Sabian symbols and its gene keys, which I'll be looking at both of those along with the astrology. So again, the full moon in Aries, this energy has to do with, the Aries energy has to do with emergence, drive, progression, courageousness, confidence, being really direct and independent. And so as we think about this full moon, the first thing I want to look at is the Sabian symbol because it's such a beautiful symbol. Aries 15 is a Native American woman weaving a blanket. And this symbol is a very, very powerful and ancient symbol. The weaving of a blanket or the weaving of anything has to do with the spiritual vestment. It has to do with the robing ourselves or being cloaked or robed in the universe. Okay, so it's about cosmic consciousness. And so it's calling for the individual, for each of us to come into this full and conscious realization of cosmic consciousness, like bringing us into the higher levels of consciousness and living more and more fully from that consciousness. And it also has to do with sanctifying life and recognizing the sacredness of all life, becoming a being of light, or remembering that we are beings of light. And if you remember, at the new moon, the Sabian symbol for the new moon had to do with our intent and our focus and staying focused on the truth, staying focused on what was really important, what really mattered. And so this full moon is sort of, when we get to the full moon from the new moon, we are sort of beginning to harvest some of the energy of that, whatever those intentions were for that new moon. And it also gives us, every full moon gives us the opportunity to release and let go of whatever doesn't serve us. So I just wanted to remind that powerful energy, that was a solar eclipse at that new moon as well. So that energy carries on for the next 6 months. And so we're being asked to really stay focused on what's important and what's the truth and not be distracted by falsehoods, by, all of the different things that are happening that could really distract us from our true purpose or our true intentions, and to really allow ourselves to open up more to cosmic consciousness. And this new moon, before I talk about the sun, which of course is always opposite the moon at the full moon, I want to mention that this moon is conjunct within 3 degrees of Salacia, which is one of the dwarf planets, or some astronomers still consider it just to be an asteroid, but the astrologers have embraced it as one of the dwarf planets. And its energy, Salacia, has to do with the higher consciousness of love. All of the dwarf planets are adding more depth and more soul consciousness to our astrological toolbox. And so it's Salacia, is the higher love consciousness, and it's giving us strength to weather the storms, to take leaps of faith, and to bring something new into form, into the world. And so, and it's also has a lot of energy of bringing humor and lightheartedness into whatever it is we're doing, and using that humor as a tool to help to move through and to help to build the courage and the strength and the fortitude required to move through difficult and stormy passages. Okay. And so really feel like this is an important energy. And together with this moon, asking us to allow ourselves to be cloaked in the universe, to be, bring that robe, that blanket that is being woven close to us, so that we can really begin to have the awareness of this higher consciousness that is coming in such a strong way. We have many astronomical events happening right now and throughout, from now through, well, there's lots of them, but from now through December, the 3-eye atlas energy is coming, close to Earth. People may be aware of that, maybe not, but it's a very, very important energy in terms of our consciousness. So say many, many astrologers and psychics, and also quite a few of the astronomers are really feeling like it's because it interacts with the sun, and the sun is basically an information source for us, right? It's the photons coming from the sun are basically packets of life, packets of information. And so solar activity is increasing and being, really impacting our consciousness. So I just wanted to bring that into the awareness as we look at this chart. So so that is a beautiful conjunction. I believe it's really empowering that higher cosmic consciousness, and that awareness that we have to be able to have the strength to make the transformations that are necessary. The changes are happening. Can we roll with them? And can we maintain our sovereignty and our authenticity and really listen to our inner authority while things are in upheaval, while things are changing rapidly? So then looking at the energy of the sun, which of course is opposite the moon here at 15 degrees of Libra. Well, first off, when we have this Aries Libra axis, right, where the moon and the sun are opposite in these two signs, we're talking about the integration of the polarity of I and we. Libra is the sign of relationship, right? So how we relate to others and how others, relate to us, where Aries is more of the I am. So Libra is we are. And so here, Libra, again, the sun is moving through the sign of Libra for another 2 weeks. And that's relationship and balance and harmony and justice, cooperation, fairness. And the Sabian symbol here is called circular paths. So 15 degrees of Libra Libra 15 in the Sabian Symbols is circular paths. And it's talking about our ability to find serenity, excuse me, in cycles, to be able to understand the cyclical nature of our lives, the cyclical nature of the planet, the cyclical nature of the seasons, right? And to get into sync and get into harmony with those cycles and to not be afraid of those cycles. You know, we have cycles of creation and we have cycles of destruction, and to be able to just flow with those cycles as recognizing the perfection and the sort of have an effortless participation in this universal order. Okay, so beautiful symbol, Sabian symbol there. So having said that, I want to come back and look at this moon again from the lens of the gene keys. And this full moon at 15 degrees of Aries is within the 21st gene key, which is the shadow of control, okay, the gift of authority, and the city of valor. And so you can see here that it really does, I mean, it really talks about it's about our inner authority. It's about, you know, and at the shadow frequency, we're dealing with issues of losing control or trying to control things that we can't control. And it has with it the dilemma of discipline. And so finding ways to be able to control our reactivity, right? Once again, I'm going to talk about, you know, being the stewards of our own energy and our own emotional nature, and to it's giving us this invitation to look at where we're trying to control things that we can't control, and to instead focus our energies on our or our awareness on our own energy, and to really recognize that is what we do have control over, and or we're able to have control over it. And when we look at the gift of authority, we rise out of the shadow of control through surrendering control. Right? We come into authority by surrendering control and allowing the true inner authority to blossom within us, and to feed the higher aspects of our souls with a steady refinement. That's the discipline. That's where the discipline comes in, to really be continually refining ourselves. And you know, that's when it really is, you know, about leadership in some way, in some ways, and it can be leadership in the outer worlds, but it's also really about how we're conducting ourselves and how we're leading our own lives, right? And are we using our own inner authority to direct our lives, or are we allowing circumstances and events and outside opinion and all of that to control us? And so as we look at this in terms of this full moon, you know, it really is asking us to tap into the highest levels that we can possibly embrace, you know, the cosmic consciousness, and allow ourselves to attune to those energies and to trust our inner authority. And that happens through that connection between the mind and the heart, right? That happens when we allow ourselves to lead from our hearts, lead our lives from our hearts. And as always, when we're dealing with any of these gene keys, and really all of the planets in the astrological chart as well, we have the choice to respond from fear or from love, right? There's always that choice in there. And I always like to remind us of that and bring that into the conversation. So beautiful there. And so it's programming partner in the gene keys it, of course, is where the sun is now, and that is at 15 degrees of Libra. And the gene key associated with this is gene key 48, which has the shadow of inadequacy, the gift, come on, of resourcefulness, and the city of wisdom. And so you can kind of feel into this that the fear of, or the inadequacy is really the fear of the unknown, right? So we feel inadequate to deal with whatever's in front of us. And so that, of course, is fed by our desire or our perceived need to control outcomes, to control what's happening, even though we know that we're in uncharted waters, we're in uncharted territories. We want to have that control. And that really furthers that feeling of inadequacy and may tend to make us give over our power, give over our authority, give over our responsibility to outside forces, when really what's required is for us to raise that frequency up, find that inner authority, and recognize our own gifts and all of the gifts that we have. All of those are all our resources. We have huge stores of resources, and so we can be resourceful in response to the unknown. How do we do that? Well, we have to transmute that fear of the unknown and recognize that as I like to remind myself every day, that life is happening for us. Life, whatever is happening in your life is happening for you, not to you. It's happening for you, and so that helps to transmute that energy into resourcefulness. And true resourcefulness will always provide us what we need, because it's a very giving energy. It's utilizing our gifts and our talents and our resources, being resourceful in our own lives, but sharing the gifts, being resourceful for others as well, finding, what other people need and providing that for them, right? This is how that resourcefulness works. And it is an energy of certainly of prosperity and abundance, because when we do that, when we turn our energy towards being of service, then whatever we require will eventually be provided to us. Maybe not when we think it should happen, but when we're ready for it, when it's ready to happen, we will have the resources that we need. And that, that's a changing thing over time. And then the wisdom, I loved, I was listening to Richard Rudd, of course, talking about this 48th gene key. And he mentions, that wisdom is rooted in not knowing. That wisdom comes from that embracing of the unknown and relaxing into that and accepting that as part of the nature of reality and our universe, that there are these things that are unknown. And the wisdom comes, whatever is required, through that relaxation and through that deep acceptance that there is the unknown, and it will always be the unknown, and that we can, again, trust in the universe. So I thought those were some beautiful energies. And so in this opposition between sun and moon, here, an opposition is always wanting us to integrate those energies and to work with these different energies and to combine them into a unified whole. And so how are we our own individual, our own sovereign individual, and how are we also part of part of a collective that has, that that has resources, that has wisdom, that has the ability to move through the changes. And so those are some of the most obvious energies of the full moon. But I also wanted to just remind us that we have Neptune here at 0 degrees, 22 minutes of Aries. So it's still there at the creator degree, at the creation degree. And Neptune is, asking us to look at how we can bring our dreams and visions into reality. How do we bring them through? And reminding us that we have to let go of illusion and delusion and fog and confusion and addiction, of all kinds, in order for us to really truly move forward. Now, Neptune makes a dip back into Pisces as it's retrograde right now, and it just dips back in on October 22nd and stays there until I think it's January 26th when it comes back to this 0 degree of Aries. And so when it does that, it's saying we're going to go back one more time and look at what has been and look at and see if there's anything else that needs to be clarified, that needs to be let go of, that needs to, come to the light of day in order for us to not be living in illusion or confusion or fog. And so I thought that's a really powerful energy. And of course, it's still in this sextile to Uranus and Sedna. Okay. We talked about this several times, and Uranus is in this trine to Pluto. So the outer planets of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are in this configuration that is very, very supportive. Uranus is bringing higher consciousness, bringing in new ways in Gemini for us to think, for us to communicate, for us to perceive things. It also has the energy of, the shock or the lightning bolt, right? And so as it's going to be moving through Gemini for a number of years. So it's going to be really transforming the way that we think, the way that we look at things, the way that energy is utilized, all kinds of changes there. And Pluto, of course, in the sign of Aquarius, it's retrograde as well. It turns direct on October 13th. And that, is saying this, we're ready to progress again now into this sign of Aquarius. We're transmuting the energies. We are looking for the sources of power, the power to the people, the power, what true power is versus what perceived power is, going from the idea of money as power to the idea of us working together in an Aquarian way as, where the power comes from. And then again, Neptune, which we just spoke about. And so I just want to remind also that this Neptune is still in the gene key 25, which is the shadow of constriction, the gift of acceptance, and the city of universal love. Okay. This, to me, is a really important thing that is happening here, is that we have this beautiful planet Neptune, which is really about our love nature, our higher love nature. And it's sitting here at this, first degree of the zodiac, at this new beginning in the gene key of love, of universal love. And so we're really, being supported in changing the way our consciousness works, and really giving us the opportunity to come from love instead of fear. Last thing that I want to talk about here, there are several other aspects, but you can see we have this Yod here, which is a two inconjuncts or quincunxes between Uranus and Mercury, and then also another inconjunct or quincunx between Neptune and Mercury. With the point of this, the finger, right? It's the finger of fate. The Yod is the finger of fate, pointing at Mercury. Well, Mercury is our mind. It's our communications. It's our learning and teaching and growing and our movement, our travel and transportation, those kinds of, these things that have to do. But mostly it's this mental energy. And you have that beautiful energy of Neptune. It's not an easy aspect, right? It's an inconjunct is a challenging aspect. It's a push-pull kind of an aspect. And when it's together in this finger of fate, it has to be resolved. And it's pointed at Mercury here, right? So it's pointed at the world mind. And so to me, it's talking about this opening of our mind to a new level of consciousness, to the new awareness. Can we open ourselves up to a new way of perceiving? And so I looked up the Sabian symbol for 1 degree of Scorpio, where this Mercury is residing in this Yod, and it is a sightseeing bus. And so it has to do with the opening of the mind and moving away from our past and becoming motivated for greater experience, new awarenesses, new understandings, new discoveries, right? And in Scorpio, it's about the need to look behind the scenes, to look at what is hidden, and Scorpio has the capacity to part the veils, right? So unveiling, seeing beneath and through things. And so I just thought, wow, what a powerful energy combined with this energy of the full moon talking about coming into cosmic consciousness. So I'm going to stop and see if I can kind of bring this back to come back down to earth here for a moment and just really invite people to utilize the energy of this full moon to open to new awareness, to new levels of consciousness, to invite that in, to invite cosmic consciousness in, to receive the energies that are coming in through all of these astronomical and astrological events as food for the soul, as food for our transmutation, for our building of our light body, for the building of the rainbow body, right? The beings of light that we truly are. And to really take some time and pause during your day on that full moon, but every day to invite and to receive these energies, because we are living in a time and we are experiencing really rare and beautiful energies that, from my point of view, are here to assist us as we move through our conscious evolution. So thank you for joining us today, and I hope you found something valuable and useful out of this. And I hope you do a beautiful ceremony for yourself for the full moon. Thanks so much for joining us.